Fighting Neo Geo Max 330メガの劇的体験 Neo Geo Sister SNK.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Esoteric on our continuing series, Neo Nostalgia, where I look at some of my favorite Neo Geo games of all time, and we're into bonus episode territory. I put up a vote and asked if you wanted to see more Neo Geo, and it was a resounding yes, and when I did the video for Last Blade, I got the most comments saying you guys wanted to see a video on the sequel. I try to make what you want, so here we are. Before I get too far involved though, do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like, subscribe, that notification bell definitely helps us out. If you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, I got a Patreon link down below as well. But in my first video I said I could have done either the Last Blade or the Last Blade 2, so much so that I basically flipped a coin to see which one I wanted to talk about. Because the Last Blade 2 is also an incredible game. You have the same roster with additional characters. This is an amazing game, just like the first one. Gives you the same style of setup of the speed and power, and 9 times out of 10 I choose power. I just like the way it hits. But just like the first game, this is absolutely gorgeous to look at in motion. Some people like the backgrounds of the first game ever so slightly more, and I might be in that camp as well, but that's not to say that any background in Last Blade 2 is a slouch. They all do look incredible, and I love these intros that they give to us. This is some of the best artwork that SNK ever made, married to some of the best fighting game mechanics that SNK ever participated in. And this is a 10 out of 10 Hall of Fame first ballot game, and I'm pretty sure that's why you guys asked me for a part 2 to this video, and I'm happy to oblige for that. It's just such an incredible, unique fighting game. And around the same time when Samurai Shodown was getting into the later games, those were still a ton of fun, but maybe you were getting a little bit tired of them, or maybe they weren't as good as something like Samurai Shodown 2. The Last Blade was here for you to cover it, and I love this background, the wheat blowing in the field, these dragonflies flying around, and that deep crimson red sunset. Now the story in this game is a little bit more expanded and a little bit deeper, and it's a little darker in tone, and it does seem like the backgrounds do kind of adhere to that colorway. The story they're telling and the colors they chose do go well together. It's just not as vibrant as we saw in the original Last Blade. But that is a design decision that the artists and developers at SNK made, and if it's not to your liking, that doesn't mean it's wrong. It's just a stylistic choice. It's an obvious one, darker tone, darker colors. You could still maybe pivot and have a really bright game with those darker themes involved at the same time if you really honed in on it, but this dark theme does fit the game and the franchise, so I have absolutely no issues with it. But every once in a while you do get a really colorful stage, like 13 Port Town here. You see the shadow of an elephant coming up, and suddenly you're launched into a stage with an elephant in full regalia in the background. It is absolutely a pretty game, but mechanically it's just more of the Last Blade that you know and love. There weren't a huge amount of changes made between both versions, but that's not a problem. SNK nailed it so well in the first game, there really wasn't a ton to improve on in the second. Expand the roster, give us another game, give us new backgrounds, give us more of what everybody loved, because everyone loved the Last Blade and still do apparently based on my last video, and it is unfortunate that this series has never gotten a third game. Imagine seeing a third entry in this franchise, I would love it. And now that we're getting Geru Mark of the Wolves 2 from SNK, if that does well, hopefully they decide to make a third game in this franchise. But I do love the fatalities, even when the characters aren't actually dead like here. Just seeing your enemy cleaved in half with your blade is absolutely a fun blast. And graphically, I would say in some spots, this game does even more than the original. This heat effect, that light waviness distortion that you see on hot summer days or around fires, is here in full effect on this stage. Sure, you're only getting one color, but the animation on those flames, it looks like fire. It's maybe going a little bit faster than real fire would, but honestly, that is incredible looking. The sense of shadow on the walls, how the light affects things, the fact that the shadow on the stairs is drawn from the light perspective of the flame at top, that is accurate. But the soundtrack, it's fun, it's strange, and it's great. So go ahead and listen for 45 seconds and I'll be right back.
真剣勝負一本目始め
What I love about that soundtrack, it's not music at all. There's two types of sound in a film or in a video game, in fact. Diegetic versus non-diegetic sound. Diegetic sound is sounds that are happening in the environment. You're hearing that cascading waterfall, it exists in real life and it exists on the soundtrack. All of the music that would play on top of a fighting game, it's not like somebody was watching the fight with a speaker broadcasting music. That would be non-diegetic sound, and hope I didn't lose you there being too film nerdy. But I love that The Last Blade and The Last Blade 2 play around with that concept. The soundtrack just being sort of environmental noise of what's actually happening around you. And this game is filled with stylistic choices. It may be SNK's most stylized franchise that they've ever made. Sure, stuff like Mark of the Wolves has absolutely beautiful colors and backgrounds, but it seems like every design decision made in The Last Blade 2 has been thoroughly thought out to give you the maximum impact. And I will let you listen to some music in a little bit because it's not all just that environmental sound. And of course there are more characters to play as, and you can play as the speed variant as well. I will say I never pick speed, I always like power, because I love those heavy hits that take a quarter to a half of a life bar off in one shot. But if you're more of a speed player, this game gives you all of those options as well to move around the screen quicker and to have those quicker strikes. They just don't hit for the same damage. And the Shrine of the Vanquished here, I love that you get a little bit of a story, whether it's fireflies or souls floating through the air, and depending on what character you're facing, you will get some storytelling as well. Now I always play the Japanese ROM, less interested in the story, but if you want to play the English version, you can understand what's going on. But again, a very dark place, but it looks incredible, and you marry that with the gameplay, and this game is just a total vibe. It has so much going on, it's always so interesting to look at and so unique to play. It is just one of those legendarily good games, and Hibiki here, she's kind of my go-to when I'm playing. It's been like a year since I played The Last Blade 2, but she still feels exactly how I remember, and I absolutely love that. But I told you I would let you listen to a little bit of actual music, so go ahead and listen for like 30 seconds and I'll come back and close the video on The Last Blade 2 out, giving you a little bit more history of the development. But enjoy! When there is music, it's absolutely spectacular, but I do like that some stages just have that environmental sound. And now going up against the boss Koryu here, I'll give another compliment to the game. This is probably the least cheap SNK boss around in my opinion. You get to something like the end of King of Fighters and you want to beat the boss, well you better learn every cheap way to attack the AI because it is damn hard. But for some reason in The Last Blade 2, the last boss, maybe 7 out of 10 times I can beat on my initial credit. That's just weird for SNK, but I'm not complaining whatsoever. It has a decent sense of fairness, except right here obviously I was very close to a victory, but I was still able to pull it out. And again, you just have to talk about this game as a whole. The graphics are absolutely spectacular, the music is amazing, the roster is great, having two different ways to play power and speed are so much fun, and the gameplay is just that good. This is one of those games where everything clicked. Everything was firing on all cylinders. All the designers, the artists and programmers were working together to make the best game they could, and what came out of it was The Last Blade 2. And like I said, when I made the initial episode on The Last Blade, everyone kept talking about wanting another episode, and there was like a 50-50 split debate over which one was the better game. And I will say, it's really not worth debating, because when two things are that incredible, you just get to decide which one you like more and go with it. I even love this story at the end, but these are two incredible fighting games from SNK. If you like the first one better like I do, that's totally fair. If you like the second one better, fair as well. I would say that this game is like 99% as good as the original, and the only difference to me that makes The Last Blade 1 better is I kind of do like the brighter colors. Short of that, that's been The Last Blade 2, and I will see you guys next time. Bye bye.